You are now tuning in to Lex and RDDC broadcast station, serving up on the double doses for us all.
All right. Thank you for joining the Real Double Dose channel. Again, this is your host, Lex, coming to you straight from the heart where the talk is real and the vibe is always live. I'm happy and excited to have all you here again because here, serving a slice of everyday life is what RDDC is all about. You know, the show links and all of that good stuff. But right now, I just want to say, if you want to check out the other things or say something for a shout out, go to Real Double Dose channel at yandex.com. That's YANDEX.com. And as well as, you know how to check out the blog spot at realdoubledosechannel.blogspot.com. And you can find us at about 15 different links, but let me run you by some. That's TuneIn, Stitcher Radio, Spreaker.com, Blueberry.com, Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and much, much more podcasts, as well as Google. You know the drill. So we want to introduce our wonderful guests. And I'm going to say this as wonderful as Julie has told me, but I'm going to say it kind of my Colombiana way. But this is Julie Coraccio, right? Is that right, Julie? Coraccio. I almost said it. Well, Julie Coraccio, this wonderful, wonderful being, is an award-winning professional life and end-of-life organizer, author, and certified life coach. And she's passionate about supporting people and clearing clutter in all areas of their lives and preparing for death to live life more fully, getting organized, and becoming more mindful and aware. And she also hosts the popular self-help podcast, Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, and is the author of 10 books. That's a lot of books, and including the Got Clutter 365 Journal Prompt series, and so much more on her YouTube channel. And we're going to get to some more of those links, and we're going to post all of the goodies at the blog spot. You know where it's at, and have that go on. But right now, we're going to have Miss Julie get into some good stuff that we can utilize in our lives every day and learn more. So how are you, Miss Julie?
I'm fantastic, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited. We're excited to have you. I mean, I'm stoked right now. So we're just, I mean, like the energy is completely off the rip. But let's ask you this question here. What is your definition, which is a very pertinent question. What's your definition of clutter?
My definition of clutter is this. Clutter is anything that prevents you from creating the life you choose, deserve, and desire. And so what I mean by that, I want people to expand their view, because so many times when we think of clutter, it's just the physical stuff, but it's so much more than that.
That is so much more than that. So let's say a person. So yeah, because I'm glad you defined that, because a lot of the audience are the RDC familians. They come to a point where they're like, well, you know, Lex, I've got a chance to do my whole house and this and that. But then on the other spectrum, they're having drama at work. They're having more problems with multiple girlfriends or boyfriends, and stacking up a lot of issues when it comes down to that. So as far as that, like, I mean, you look at clutter in a whole nother spectrum from what other people do. So can you define that a little bit more and tell us about that?
Sure. Well, first of all, I believe that the inner reflects the outer. So if your whole physical space is really junked up and cluttered, there's a good chance that your inner life is kind of chaotic as well, too. And so I love how you mentioned a moment ago relationships. We can absolutely have relationships clutter. We can have clutter in our health, in our finances, our mental. We can have spiritual clutter. We can have energetic. We can have emotional. We can have all those components of it. And so as you begin to clear, like if you begin to work on your home and clearing your physical clutter, it also helps you clear your inner clutter and vice versa. And I think that that's really important for people to know. And, you know, someone listening might say, well, you know what, Julie, I don't believe that because my house is super organized and I don't have any clutter. Well, that's true. It can be that sometimes. But I'm going to wonder when I open that door, what am I going to see?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people say, oh, my house is clear. But I'm like, well, let's look behind some doors here or under the bed. What's going on here?
I like that. Yes. You know, sweep it. What is the definition? Sweep it under the rug kind of thing?
Yes. Yeah. Good one. Yes, yeah. Exactly.
I mean, I just had my friend tell me that. He was like, well, you know, let's go for this conversation here and then let's just sweep that under the rug. We'll talk about it later. I'm like, oh, so let's basically get a whole rug full of crap, basically. And then later on, when we think everything's clear and all dandy, we just have to go right under that rug and face all the junk we put under there to begin with.
Exactly. Okay. And so what are you hiding? And so that's a question that you can ask. Like, what is your clutter saying to you?
Yeah, that's
What
true.
is it trying to speak to you.
Absolutely. That is so deep. I'm absorbing this at the same time we're doing this wonderful expert interview. And I didn't want to get off course because I love knowledge. I love wisdom. I love utilizing that knowledge. And that's the whole thing. RDDC, families, all you new joining and all those out there, no matter how many times you go over the intro or what it is for the outro, it's still about utilizing and putting these things into practice. And if you feel you can't do it on your own, that's why we do leave the links and so much more and have this so you can play, rewind, or live. We're going to so many other things out there to be able to say, well, man, Julie said this, so let me see if I can go over here and figure out what really is going on. Because no matter how beautiful it may look on the outside, you still have to go on the inside. I mean,
100%.
Yeah, I mean, like at that point, you have to kind of get to that point. So you have the emotional clutter, and then you have the spiritual clutter. You have the mental fogginess and clutter, definitely. So out of each one, how would they go about a level or a system strategically in their own kind of way? I know you could probably help them there, but what is a little small outline they could probably start doing first? What would be the main one they would start looking at to evaluate?
Oh, that's a great question. I always think everything is very individualized. So I would ask the question, well, how do I feel mentally? How do I feel emotionally? How do I feel spiritually? Or is there something going on in one of those areas that I need to address right away? So, for example, if you have insomnia and aren't sleeping at night, then I'm going to say, hey, what's going on? Let's look at your mental clutter. Or if you overeat, I'm an emotional eater. That's something that I have struggled with on and off my entire life. Well, okay, if I'm emotionally eating, what feelings aren't I feeling? What am I not facing? Then maybe we need to look at our emotional clutter. And then maybe perhaps you're at work at a 9-to-5 job and hate it, and you're not sharing your gifts with the world, and you're not having that passion of what you'd like to do. So maybe that's where we need to start.
Preach, Julie. Preach. My God. You sound like you're singing exactly. I mean, no offense, everyone out there. This is definitely to you too, but I felt like you were just taking all the notes out of the pages because I've been dealing with insomnia lately and I cannot sleep. Even though I get up at 4 a.m., I cannot sleep anymore. And this is for the last 2 weeks. I've been going through this and then my mind feels so kind of just, okay, I'm going at this pace. I also feel the same thing with people downtown dealing with different colleagues where I'm just like, I'm sitting in my car at the parking ramp and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing here right now? So, I mean, yeah, you got, oh man, that is so pinpoint. Like everyone, if you just take a moment, just to absorb that and just start looking at that, because at the end of the day, I don't know if it was TD Jakes had referenced something a few years ago. He had mentioned something about people come out and they have their perfume and their hats on. I think he was referencing it towards his church at the time, but he was saying people want to come out, they smell so good, you think, man, their life is so on point. But when you go in their home, it smells completely just off-putting. Everything is completely different from what you thought, and you're always looking at it like, oh, I wish I had it like that. But we spend so much time, it seems, looking at everyone else's facade or principle of a portrait of life that we don't even start looking at, decluttering. And for us, like, so for Julie, I want to ask this question. For those, and especially myself, what about the overwhelming sensation? Because I get overwhelmed very easily, where I feel like if someone was just like, Lex, I want to go to McDonald's instead of KFC, for example, I'm like, oh my God, I cannot handle one more thing. He wants to go to McDonald's instead of KFC? Like, how do you do that? Because I feel like the emotional eating, that's what I do too. I will literally go pick up some peanut caramel clusters, knowing I shouldn't get even a bag. I'll get 3 or 4. And then I'll just say, okay, you know what, today and tomorrow, I'm just going to eat whatever and just kind of just nibble my way into more of a ruckus. Like, I mean, when you feel overwhelmed, what should you do in like little tidbits to kind of get the ball rolling without like sabotaging yourself?
Right, great question. I'm so happy because you have hit on something that a lot of times when people have clutter, they're overwhelmed. That is usually one of the symptoms. So the first thing I'd say to do, stop. Just stop right there, and I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to take 10 deep breaths. Because when you stop, so it's kind of like, let's talk about the caramels or whatever you grab for your emotional eating. If we stop, right?
Yeah.
Okay, stop. I'm going to stop. If I'm reaching for one, freeze my hand, and then I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to take 10 deep breaths. And what that begins to do is that brings you into the present moment. Because when I'm emotionally eating, it's probably because I'm upset. Oh, I should have said that, and I didn't.
Okay.
Or maybe if I have insomnia, it's because I'm like, well, what's going to happen in the future? You know, are we going to have enough to pay our bills for the mortgage next month? So when you stop and when you start to take those deep breaths, what that does is that brings you into the present moment, that slows you down, that helps ground you. And so that's one of the first things that I recommend to people. Stop, close your eyes, and take 10 deep breaths. And then you're in a better frame of mind. So then you can say, okay, do I want McDonald's or do I want KFC or whatever it is? And then the more grounded you are, the more you're in your body, then you're going to be able to get in tune and in touch with your soul and that inner wisdom, because you have all the wisdom you need within you. When I work with people, my job is to support them and help bring out that wisdom. I don't know what's best for them. They know what's best for them. But when you are centered and grounded, then you can access that wisdom. Does that make sense?
It definitely does. It's almost like we're sensitizing ourselves to, like, I think it was, I don't know if it was Marianne Williamson who was saying something about our deepest fear. And it's about, like, you allow them, and basically you're saying, well, we already have that, but we almost need that permission to be given within us to kind of unlock that and say, okay, we can do that. I mean, because at the same time, I love being able to vast in aisles of asparagus. I'm obsessed over that. I'm obsessed over just that. And I told people, I'm like, it's not even a diet trend. It's so good. Even if it wasn't nurturing for the system, it just tastes absolutely amazing with some mangoes for dessert, something else. But it's so easy to kind of go for those objects that we see as our guilty, quote, pleasures, or our guilty kind of like make me feel bad because I know you're not the best for me kind of way. And I'm going to take that little 10 pause and breathe, because I feel like, and at the end of the day, I want to just brush up on this, what Julie has said, everyone. We also have to make a pact to not want to stay in the sabotaging moments. And that's what I realized. And I'm not going to, God rest my sister's soul, but when she decided to take her life almost about 2 years ago now, I feel as though even though her and I had a lot of the same steps growing into life, I decided to push past that and not live in the moment of always letting it sabotage and keep me down in depression or keep in that moment. And if you have to, and I noticed that too, you have to have someone who can coach you, have to have someone who can at least lead the way, something to where you can interlock that, because you can look on Google all day long. You can look at all the things out there, but those key pinpoints are not really there until you have someone that's specified in that certain area, like Julie is, to be able to have you kind of like center focus on what you're trying to convey and do in order to have progress move forward, and at least get 50 to 60% there, because if you can at least see yourself walking through the door, you can enter it the whole way. And yeah, I just wanted to say that, Julie. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And I want to have a couple thoughts. You mentioned that I want to talk about just bringing relationship clutter, because you mentioned something that I think is so important. Let go of those people that don't want you to shine your light bright, because most of us listening probably have someone in our life that wants to keep us down. Let them go.
Okay.
Let them go.
Yeah. I was struggling with that actually, because I was sitting there and I would say, Lex, the goddess, you're the one who has all the questions. So I was like, no, when I tap into the source of all creation that taps into me, I can be that vessel. But when it comes down to my own personal, it's the guilt that eats me up. And I'm kind of like, man, this person will say, oh, I'm so happy for you. And then I literally hear them say, well, why don't you just give up? And I'm kind of like, wow, that's amazing that you say you're my best friend after all these years. But then every time I talk about something happy to benefit us, you always say, oh, well, that's nice. Anyway, next subject. And I'm like, why do I talk to this person? Like, why do I do that? So it's amazing that, it was a reason why you said that. It was definitely a reason why you hit that keynote. And I was just listening to that again this morning. I'm like, man, how do you do it? And I feel like I'm going to miss out on something. But I guess in this retrospect, if I was going to see it, it would have happened already. I mean, right. At least after 5 years.
And remember, you have to let stuff go. And when you let stuff go, don't look at that as a quote-unquote bad thing. What you do when that happens is you open up space to bring in people who are going to be your squad and who are going to be your support system. Be like, yeah, man, you can do it. I got your back, Lex. What do you need? Let's go.
Yes.
We're on this road together. But when you are crammed with people, whether it's people, stuff, emotions, the good stuff can't get in when it's crammed.
That's true. That's like basically my next door neighbor having a problem going to a garage sale because she doesn't want to let go of 90% of her items and she can't fit it in her home. So that kind of, in some kind of way, yeah. We look at it like, well, maybe I'll need this pot holder later. Maybe I'll need that little crowbar for the car, even though I have 17 in the driveway. I'm just saying, like one of those probably. Right. Yeah. And then,
then you're not present. You're in the future.
Yeah.
Why are you all the way in the future? Bring yourself back into the present moment. And that trust that you'll get what you need when you need it. When you have that trust in your faith, okay, when that thing needs to show up. I'm going to give a little example. So I had been thinking about, I have a pro mic, and I was like, maybe I need to get a headset. And I was like, blah, blah, blah. And so someone was interviewing me, and they sent me this headset that I'm talking to you on. And I was like, wow, there you go.
Yeah.
I put it out there, and it arrived. But again, I had been working on clearing all my clutter in the office. I had been like, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert. I need to read. And then someone who does a lot more than I do was like, here's a headset. I want you to have that. I'm like, fantabulous.
Wow. I like that. Fantabulous. That's great. You know what? That's what it is. I mean, and also being, well, to be able to be happy in that moment and and I tell people, just because you're satisfied with something doesn't mean it's the end of the road. Because although we have a shower, our bodies aren't satisfied. 2 days later, it says, hey, can I touch some more water again? Or the next one, depending on what you do for your criteria of energy. And the gratitude conspiracy, they call it, where people are saying, oh, and that's one. I mean, I do a lot of mentoring to a lot of people, and I don't like to put the stigma of people behind the walls and people out here who are in mental walls. But the ones that I get a chance to deal with, the wonderful individuals from all walks of life, especially the ones who are not able to be out here in a free world at this moment, a lot of them have this whole mental where they get very upset with me, where they're like, Lex, okay, I hear you, but right now I just need, and literally they'll say, I need self-pity. I'm not happy with anything. I'm not this, I'm not happy, I'm not this. I don't want to hear about this gratitude conspiracy. And I had to pause for a moment. I'm like, wait a minute, aren't you alive? And I'm like, at the end of the day, no matter if it's 3 square meals a day in a shower or people yelling in your ear, there's kids out there picking up trash for days trying to feed 9 children in a whole nother area. Now, granted, they don't know a different part of life because that's what they grew up in. Still look at it for this fact that you have 2 kids waiting for you who are still calling you dad or mom. Or someone out here who has to go to work and say, I'm so tired of working 40, 50 hours a week. I just want to be done with it. I'm tired of being a parent. But at the end of the day, there's always someone on the other spectrum that is begging for our life or our looks or something that we have. There's at least 10 to 20 people envying who would die literally to be in the placement of where we are. So that conversation, I wanted to say, like, you talk about the gratitude and how it relates to clutter. So how can it create like clutter as far as like with the gratitude or quote gratitude conspiracy?
Sure. Well, first of all, you can't hold 2 opposing thoughts. So I can't be in gratitude and be in lack at the same time.
Oh,
so,
yeah. Okay.
Remember that. And so like, if you don't have gratitude, you can create physical clutter because you're trying to keep up with the Joneses. Well, I've got to have what the next door neighbor has, so I'm going to buy more. And if you don't have gratitude for what you already have, then you can create physical clutter. You can create mental clutter if you don't have gratitude because you're always in that mindset of the victim mentality or the lack mindset. Who wants to be around someone that complains all day? I personally don't.
No.
So it creates clutter that way, right? It creates spiritual clutter, like you've just been, telling us a great example. There, you always have more than someone else out there. And, you can't see that. And then, of course, emotional clutter, because if you're angry or upset all the time about what you don't have, that's not a good place for you.
Yeah.
And, I would quote, he's kind of annoying, but I would quote Dr. Phil, like, how's that working for you? Are you happy having a pity party 24/7?
That's true.
And I'm not saying that you have to be, I'm like, have I never had a pity party? Of course not, I have. But you know what? I give myself amount of time. 2018 was a really crappy year for me. And I let myself, wallow and do all that for a while. Then I'm like, okay, that's done. You have had your time, but now it's time to move forward. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying if you've been having a pity party for a year or several, it's time to move on.
That's true. That is very true. And two examples of that from my own personal script is, I remember my mom, she always quotes and has quote. She was saying, your grandma always said, don't be someone's garbage collector. And I always tell them that too. I will sift through the garbage with you. We can look at the things that you need to throw over here and there. Maybe it'll help me along the journey of my own garbage, but I'm not here for you to dump it upon me. And that's what the clutter comes in too, because also everyone, if we look at it, even though we're saying, okay, well, we're looking at these things in our life, and you seemingly go through these steps, whether it's with Julie or just looking at some of the wonderful things she has available to kind of get that going, you still have to look at the people in your lives or the circumstances of those things you're attached to coming in to put more clutter on what you think you're clearing out already. And then I'm like, okay, That definitely makes sense on that retrospect, because I still look at the fact where I was in a funk when I was in California. And even though it helped me be able to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes, and definitely like the emblem of the tribe, it gets to that point to where I was in that pity wallow where I wanted to be there. And I was finding myself in there every time it came down to a point for me to get back to action and start focusing on what I need to do. I was like, oh, well, mom. And one day she just told me, Lex, you know what? I've been really cool with you, been trying to be sensitive, and right now you're strong enough. I know you're strong enough. So snap out of it, get over it right now. And I didn't want to hear it. But at the same time, after she told me that, I said, you know what? She's right. Because if I'm going to sit here and just keep in the same place, I'm never going to have any movement forward. And if I'm going to get busy, like basically I was dying in place. If I'm dying in place, I'm not getting like to the movement of living. And that's the truth. Mm-hmm. That is so true, man. See, Julie, we are just like a perfect pair right now.
We are. I'm thrilled that you're getting this and you're making these connections and you're sharing examples from your own life, because I think that's completely great, and so many people need to hear this. Wonderful.
Yeah, I feel like if you don't get a chance to look at when you're talking right now, I'm trying to remember that I'm still here on the show, because I'm still I'm evaluating this, and I'm like, man, Julia has a lot of great. All her points are great, so I'm already assessing this to where I'm like, I'm hungry for more, and I know those who are out there definitely are wonderful downloaders. I love you guys, even a little extra too. I know you're replaying this and you're putting it with your car or you're bringing it to your office, and I hear the feedback on the emails is so much about how we don't even realize when our conversations are happening how much is utilized and changed your life in a whole way to where it's affecting your children or your grandchildren or just you going to college or going down on your first job. Hey, that is a miracle waiting to happen. But no matter what stage of life we are in, there is always some decluttering that needs to be there, because we've accumulated this, haven't we, Julie?
Absolutely.
I mean, especially over the years that came along with it. So what are, if you don't mind saying it, what are some of the other books that you have as far as like, because I'm really, really into this Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, definitely for that one. And the 365 prompt series for including the Got Clutter one. But what other books do you have that some of the audiences might get a chance to endeavor in once they check out your awesome material?
Well, so I have, because I tried to do some branding, but so one of the books is Clear Your Clutter Inside and Out, and so that is 21 standalone chapters. It's going to look at physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and we have a bonus energetic chapter. And what I do is that's a little more hand-holding. That's a little more intensive. I have you take action steps. It's really holding your hand to clear everything. And then along with that, I have a companion guide. So if you're sitting doing all the work, it just is for you to be able to write as I'm asking you questions and saying, hey, this is what the next step is, so then you can write it all out. And then the following 8 are all the journal prompt series. And what I did with that was created books. As I mentioned earlier in our interview, you have all the answers within. And so if you are like, you know what, I kind of know, then what these questions do is ask you, and I take you through step by step, okay, once we have answered them, and I've done something really unique that I haven't seen in other journal prompt books, is I have a line, and so one extra step is once you've answered the question, I encourage you, because we talked about being overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. So if we put another step in to keep you from not being overwhelmed, is you take out what's most important that I've answered on that question, you put it on the other little side of the line, and then again tell you how to create goals step by step, and then say, okay, what's our action plan, and if you're really overwhelmed, what's our immediate action plan. So again, this is looking at like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and holidays, right? Mm-hmm. I created one for holidays because with family and stuff, everything can be nuts. So those are some resources for people.
Oh, wow. That's great. Oh, yeah, especially holidays. Holidays will get you, even Valentine's Day, okay? Because it gets to that point where I'm already like, oh, my gosh, I didn't send out the cards. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Oh, my goodness. And it's almost like you're waiting for the day to come just to be over with. And it's not even with the person or the thing. It's just like, okay, I finally got all the presents. I finally got all the fixings for the table. It's enjoyable. Then you got to think about some of my friends, especially, that they get very overwhelmed with the cleanup. They get obsessed over like if they didn't get the right gravy or if the stores closed too early. I mean, they completely said, I didn't even remember it was Thanksgiving. I didn't even remember it was anything to do with my kids' soccer practice or their hockey game. I mean, oh man, at least 1,200 different stories a week. I get a chance to, I mean, and it's a beautiful thing, but I mean, it makes me look at the spectrum a little bit extra clear and extra deeper in there. So, I mean, at the end of the day, all these wonderful thoughts, and we got to have you back, Julie. We have to have you back.
Anytime. I'd love that. Sit down and hang out and have a good chat.
Yes, you know what? We might just do a collaboration here, RDC family. We're going to have the spirit and mind elevation, and then we're going to have Julie come on here and have her awesome little collab, and we'll have our little courses and our promptus. So you guys can come on there and have some real direct action with us going on. They like my little crazy scientific ideas out there sometimes. But I mean, it is pretty much out there. But is there anything that you wanted to add to be able to say out there to those who are going to be inspiring to come find out more of the expertise that you do have in this field at all before we get this little glide on?
Yeah, I just wanted to leave everyone with this one thought. You, everyone listening, are good enough, you're worthy enough, and you are loved no matter what. And I want you to always remember that. I don't care if you are in jail and have done something, no matter what, you are good enough, you're worthy and loved. To me, that is the essence of clutter for us, because so many times we feel not worthy, not good enough, and not loved, and that's so not true. You are.
Definitely. I have the second, third. Anthony's raising his hand in the booth. He forced that. I'm sure if Angela was here instead of over at the other building, she would fifth that right now. But I mean, it is the truth. And ultimately, this right here has been actually a wonderful kind of declutter moment in itself, because now there's more clarity for all of us at this moment, especially today when you're all getting a chance to hear this. About a few hours from where we're doing this right now, you'll be able to say, man, like, look at that. Like, look at this. And I know some of you will be getting to this maybe a couple days later, so forth, like you do, and it kind of gets in this huge spike. But at the end of the day, it's about what, and Julie's here adding value beyond measurement. And this is where you take your time in order to give the things in your purpose of what you are and what you have to give freely as is given to you. And, there's always, scales that we go on, but that's what it is. So, Julie, we love you, and you're amazing to come on here, and we hope to have you back again. And thank you so much. I want to just say that. But everyone, you can check out Julie's. I want to say, can you just say your name one more time? You say it so beautifully.
Thank you. Julie Coraccio.
Coraccio. There you go. Julia Coraccio, everybody. Put a little Colombiana flair with the Italiana right there. So we have Julie Coraccio, and you can check out her weekly podcast, Clear Your Clutter Inside Out, and her YouTube channel. We're going to have all those links again at realdoubledosechannel.blogspot.com. Don't forget. And it's just amazing what you can do, but you can also check her out at www.reawakenyourbrilliance.com, which is off the chain. And she has her number provided as well, where you can have your 15-minute free consultation and get that going on, so you can get some things going on for yourself. And definitely, I'm about to get into something, because right now I want to declutter a lot of things going on in my life at this moment. But this is the Real Double Dose channel, and like we said, you can check out those links and everything else. Remember to be the change, feel the passion, embrace the power of that wonderful spirit. Hashtag declutter your life and begin a new one every single day. We love you. We're here for you, and we'll be back with you very, very soon.